Hello, my friends. So I have Andee Hart on the podcast today. Thanks, Andee, for coming and sharing your time with us. I'm excited to talk about your story and how you help women entrepreneurs with selling, or as what we call serving. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, do you want to share with the listeners your story about corporate? Because I think it would resonate with a lot of them, because that's either where they have been or where they are, and then moving into entrepreneurship.
Yes, absolutely. I have such a crazy story. I think if anyone had told me that this was my story, I would not have believed them until it actually happened. But I was in sales, executive sales and leadership for over 17 years in technology sales. And during the pandemic, I started a candle company. I have always loved creating beautiful things. And so we're all stuck at home. And I thought, this will be a fun way to fill my time. I started making candles in my kitchen, gave them to family and friends. But then, of course, my sales mind started selling them. And I had a goal to be in four retailers by the end of 2022. And within 3 months, this was kind of towards the end of the summer, I was in 120 retailers. So just completely blew my own mind. And meanwhile, this is while I'm still have my corporate sales job. And so I actually had just received a promotion at work and had moved into a new division as a global sales director. And I was quickly told I was going to need to lay off some people at work. And that is just, no matter how long you have been in corporate, it's just disheartening. I don't ever want to get used to doing something like that. And I also just began to think, I'm in a new organization and we're laying people off. The target may be on my back too. So in January of 2023, I just began dreaming of what would it look like if I took my candle business and I did this full time. And so I wrote in my prayer journal a date, and I set a date of September 29th, 2023. And you may think, why September 29th? Why that specific date? It wasn't just a random date. I knew if I left my corporate job, I wanted to leave well. I did not want to leave on bad terms because I really loved my company, loved the people that I worked with. And so September 29th was 5 days before my 40th birthday. And it was also a Friday, which was the end of our fiscal half at the company that I worked for. So I wrote that down and just began praying over that date. And a few months later, I was sitting in my home office and a VP called me and he said, Andee, we're laying people off and we are getting rid of your job. We're getting rid of your role at work. And so most people are being let go next month, but we have approval to keep you on board for 6 more months because we want you to find a role within the company. But if not, then, we'll take care of you and you'll be released in 6 months. So I hung up the phone and I realized that 6 months from that date that he called me was March 29th. So 6 months from that date was September 29th. So I would love to tell you that it was faith over fear from that point, but I was just still a little bit in shock. So I did try to find another job that I really wanted at the company. And I had a couple of different job offers, but none that I really wanted. And so September 29th came and I left that company and walked out the door and became a full-time entrepreneur. So it's been a little over a year now and I have never looked back. It has been a crazy roller coaster adventure, but it's one of the best decisions that I've ever made for sure.
Yeah. I think, what you said without saying it is like, we can make the money, but the money doesn't fulfill us if we aren't doing work that we love. And I think that more of us, the more that we, you know, have the courage to leave to do things that we love, the more that we give permission for others to do the same. Because like you said, I'd like to say that it was, faith over courage, but like we do not have, like, we think that it's everything's going to be all in a pretty little box, when we decide to make the
Right.
leap. And it just doesn't happen like that, right? Like, we still have days where, I mean, you're like, what am I even doing? And also recognizing that I would rather be building my dream than somebody else's.
100%. Yes. And I don't want to spend the majority of my waking hours of my life working for someone else's dream. I want to be doing something that I am absolutely passionate about.
Yep.
And to your point, I don't think that any amount of money can replace that.
No. Yeah. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what you currently, I know you started the candle company, you also have another business. So, just share a little bit about your other business, and then how do you support humans,
Yes.
women?
Yes. So I still have my candle company and I have expanded that, but I also started a coaching business for women entrepreneurs, specifically product makers that want to get their products on the shelves of retailers. And so it's really following the exact model that I used to get my candles out onto retailers across North America. It's really using the exact model that I used and teaching product makers how to do the same thing, how to go from maybe they're doing pop up markets on weekends right now, or they're selling direct to consumer and they want to grow a business and really scale it. And the best way to do that is through wholesale. And so I love coaching women entrepreneurs on how to grow their product based business. It has really become my passion using all of the sales skills that I learned for 17 years
Yeah.
and how to implement that in um, for women that have created beautiful products.
Yeah.
So
Do they
it's really
come to
combining that.
you do they come to you, I don't wanna use the word tired, but that's the word that's coming to me, like, "Okay, I know I have something, it's just like, how do I make this bigger than what I'm doing?" Because there's a local macaron place in
Mhm.
Boise, and it's amazing, and I was talking to the owner the other day, and she said for 2 or 3 years, they did farmers markets every single weekend, and I'm just like, "That feels exhausting." Like, so I'm curious for you, like, do your clients typically come and they're just like, "I am so worn out. This is not my idea of entrepreneurship."
Yeah, usually it's one of two things. They've been trying to sell online, like they have a website and what they've been doing is not working.
Okay.
They've been selling online or doing pop-up markets and what they've been doing is not working. So they need help either restructuring their online presence or maybe their product or their product packaging or their pricing and just help with the sales and the marketing side of it. Or they're brand new and they know that maybe they just have a fear of selling and talking about their product. And they're like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
They don't want to face that. They don't want to be that icky, uncomfortable salesperson that is pushing their product.
Yeah.
And so they want to talk about it in a comfortable way. And so that's what I teach them to do.
Yeah. I think we have a lot of, because 90s, 2000s, 2010s, 2020s. I mean, I think it's changing, but there's a lot of ickiness that a lot of people
Yeah.
feel around sales, which, you and I talked about this before. It's like selling is just serving, but
Hmm.
because we have been sold to so much in that, like, forceful, make a decision now kind of way, we don't want to put anyone in that position from an experience with us.
Right. 100%. And that's part of the problem is that we have had such poor experiences
Yeah.
that we don't want to recreate those poor experiences for other people. And so my job is, and what I do is I change that narrative and help my clients completely transform their strategy and create a whole new experience for their clients where they are truly creating an experience and not a sale,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I talk about this all the time that it is truly changing. It starts with changing your own mindset.
Yeah.
It starts with changing your own mindset because if I go into a conversation with a potential client and think, I've got to make a sale, then all of my actions and all of my words are going to be centered around a desperation,
Mhm.
and it's going to feel icky and it's going to come across to my potential customer. And probably 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to lose a sale and create that icky experience that we are trying not to create.
Yeah.
So it truly does start with that shift in mindset within yourself.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. And I think, energetically people feel that, right? When you are coming from that place of getting versus giving, it is a very different energy. And um I did a podcast, I don't know, it was a couple of them ago, but like we want to buy, like we love to buy things. Like we
mhm,
genuinely as humans love to buy stuff. And when we can look at it like someone's wanting to buy something, how do you serve them? How do you help them get what they want? And sometimes it might be what you're offering, and sometimes it might be the person down the road or someone else or whatever it might be. So when you look at it from like, how can I serve this person? How can I ask them questions? Dig deeper into like, what are you actually wanting? How can I help you? Versus I need to make that sell today. I think it's a very, like you say, it's a mindset and it's an energetic shift of,
mhm.
and people feel that whether it doesn't necessarily mean the words that you're saying, it's the energy that you're in when you're with someone and connecting with someone.
Well, and how much of communication is nonverbal?
Nonverbal. Yeah.
Right? And that even goes for, this sounds different, right? But that even goes for if you are having a meeting or if you are interacting with someone written, that
Mhm.
is even of how long you are taking to respond to them too. Like that says a lot as well, right? And so something that I learned very early on in sales, I had a mentor that had been in sales for a long time, and he was actually my sales engineer. So he was not even like the lead salesperson. But one thing he taught me was never be afraid to walk away.
Yeah.
And his point was don't be desperate,
Yeah.
because when you know you have a great product, you don't have to beg people to buy.
Yeah.
And you serve people, you educate people on your product. And when they're ready to
Mhm.
buy,
Mhm.
they will come back.
Yeah.
And I learned so much about sales from him and serving your audience.
Mhm.
And that has carried with me through today. And when you are truly serving and just getting to know your clients, and when they say thanks and they walk away, what our culture today tells us is that you go, "Hey, hold on. I have a discount code for you."
Yeah. I have a
That's like
oh,
the worst thing. And so for me, what I teach is graciously let them walk away. They're not ready yet.
yep.
You know, it is okay to let a customer walk away. And there are probably so many sales coaches that might be listening to this and going, that is the worst advice ever. Hey, I will absolutely let them walk away all day long,
Yeah.
because if they are not ready to buy and I am pushing them, I am creating a poor experience around my whole brand.
Yeah. Totally. And I think a lot of this comes back to that that scarcity over that abundant mentality of like when you know that more clients are coming and that, you know what, this client, it just is not a good fit. And also for me, what I have learned with understanding human design, like half of us are like wave riders, meaning like we need time to process what
Mhm.
the information is. We need to go home. And when I say think about it, I don't mean like weigh the pros and cons. I just mean like in my body, get to a neutral place where I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Like when I was thinking about buying my bike, you know, it was about $2,500 and I was like trying to like decipher which one I wanted and I found the one I wanted. And then I went and rode that bike probably 3 or 4 times, completely different days, right? Like it probably lasted over a 2-month, you know, time frame. But I'm going to have that bike for probably 10 plus years and I knew I wanted, and I mean buyer's remorse happens because we're in a rushed hurry up make this decision. Versus when I bought the bike, I was like, yes, this is my bike. It felt so good, right? I wasn't buying on a high. I wasn't feeling pressured. And I think that we don't, like you're saying, you know, you're helping um, women do this, but the normal old school way of doing business is like make them make a decision right now, which that feels very intrusive and like, hey, I need to be in my own work space. I need to kind of just be with myself and see what it is that I want versus I have to make this decision right now because it's going to go away if I don't make this decision. You know, feels very pressured.
Right. And what we don't realize and what we don't think about is sometimes the most gracious thing that we can do for our customers and the way that we can serve them
Mhm.
best is by giving them space
Yeah.
to process that
Mhm.
in the way that God created them to process it.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
What you just said is I needed to go and weigh the pros and cons because that is how I'm made to do that,
Yep.
right? And so if you are not allowed and given the space to do that, and then you have buyer's remorse, well, then guess what? If I am the one that sold you that $2,500 bike, and even if you would have come to that decision and bought that bike and been very happy with it, but I didn't give you that space to do it,
Yep.
then now I am on the back end dealing with a customer that has buyer's remorse. And I am going to be selling on the back end to prevent a return. And it's a way bigger headache.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what we don't realize
Mhm.
is that you are creating a horrible customer experience on the back end and a lot more work for yourself when you don't allow your customers to process buying decisions in the way that they were created to process them.
Yeah. And also I think about we are thinking about just this person in this moment versus your name, your brand for years and years and generations to come. And
Mhm.
so, what experience do you want your client to walk away with? And, you know, my dad would always tell me because you know he'd always read all of the marketing sales books. He's like, you know, you do what is it? I'm probably going to mess it up, but like you know, you have a good experience, you might tell one person. You have a poor experience, you might tell 5 or 10 people, right? And so just that alone of it was such a great experience to be with Andee. How many people, it's like a spider web effect that we can have versus then you're, you know, from a loving way, like it's so fun, go see her. It was such a great experience versus I'm not telling anyone, or if I do tell anyone, it's going to be, you know, not a great experience that I had. And so I think that that's keeping that in the forefront of your mind too. Tell me your thoughts about that when you're helping clients.
Yes,
Selling.
I talk about that as really focusing on pursuing long-term relationships
Mm,
over just that immediate
immediate.
transaction
Yep.
because and that's really where kind of that countercultural you know our so many of our traditional sales tactics they talk about just the immediate transaction, the here and now. But when you are focusing on the long-term relationship and creating the really the great customer experience, then you do have the client that is the client for life.
Yeah.
And they may come back and purchase more from you later, but they're also going to tell about the great experience. It's so much more than just the product that you're selling. It truly is, and you hit on this, the brand, the overall brand. And I want people to have, when they think about She Sells Differently, which is
Mm,
the name of my coaching company, they're not just thinking about my wholesale course.
mhm,
They are thinking about Andee and all that they learned from Andee and the community
mm,
that they experienced when they signed up to work with me.
mhm.
And so it is so much more than just like a simple product that they bought.
Yeah,
And that's more important to me than just like an immediate transaction. It is more about that long term experience. And I think just so often our our culture forgets that when we see what kind of sales tactics
yeah.
our culture is pushing,
Yeah,
you know?
that's exactly the word I was gonna use. I'm like, it's an experience, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
having an experience, and you will remember that experience versus looking at someone as a dollar sign. It's like we're human beings, right? Like, we
Mhm.
want to be talked to from a loving, nourishing place. We want to be supported. We want to, get what we're wanting to buy. And like I said, maybe that's with you, maybe it's not, and that's okay. But like, truly serving the human in front of you, seeing them as you. I think also too, you called it what? Bro selling, I guess. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Bro
Bro
selling.
selling.
It's very almost definitely transactional and very separation based, right? But when we see
Mhm.
each other as us, when I see you as me, right? As how do I want to be, how do I want to buy? How do I want that experience to be? I think like you're talking about that mindset shift versus you're just here to give me money and I'm going to give you something. And that separation between us versus we're all connected and how can I help you versus you're, you're buying something, I'm getting money and that's what it is.
Yeah. I struggle I struggle with, and don't get me wrong, they're amazing salespeople, but I struggle with the ads that I see a lot of times, and I won't name names, but like um amazing salespeople, but they are, I call them the bro sales, and they're like getting in their like $200,000 cars, and they're doing ads for how to close more sales and close more deals, or they're getting into their helicopter. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you're not on my level. Like, I don't own a helicopter or $200,000 car. And so it's like, this is not at all connecting or serving the customer.
Mm,
And that is where I feel like there's just such a like a missed just connection so often. And that I feel like is just those um common sales tactics that we're seeing out in the marketplace. That's often where they're coming from and where we see just that icky
yeah.
sales feeling, you
I
know?
love that you said that because we didn't even talk about this before, but I think this is really important because how often we have a relationship with money. And most of the time, most people don't have a great relationship with money. And so when you think about people that are coming from a forcing you place, right? Transaction based place, and then you see them get in their helicopter or you see them, driving their car, we then build more evidence that money is not a great thing because look at this experience that I've had, look at what they're doing. And I think, and I love what you're doing because I'm like, more humans, women, all of the, all the humans, but like women have a good relationship with money and be doing like having a great selling experience and living in the house or the buying the car, doing whatever we want to do. Because I think that we associate, oh, I don't want any of that and I don't want any part of that versus we can cultivate, we get to have nourishing experiences for our clients and we get to have the things that we want. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Like
Right.
it's almost like this, I don't want any of that because all of that had to deal with forcing and pushing versus we can have those things we want. I definitely agree with you about like we might not be on the same level. And I also think that sometimes we push away what we truly want in the lifestyle that we want to live because we've been so conditioned with like, oh, if that's what I have to do to get that, I don't want any of that.
100%.
Yeah.
Right. And we were talking earlier about just redefining wealth too.
Yes.
And I think that that is, kind of moving into that conversation of just um, redefining wealth and pushing away those things that you don't want because I don't want to be that person if
Mhm.
that's what I have to do to get that.
Yep.
And yeah, I think when you truly redefine wealth, especially just as an entrepreneur, and it just really just reshapes your whole mindset, and how you view um, everything about your sales mentality, and just who you want to be as an entrepreneur too. So yeah, I have just seen so many of those ads lately. It's just been at the forefront of my mind. So I'm like, ooh, it makes
But
me
it's such
cringe.
a good example because we almost look at it from this duality, right? Like, oh, I don't want to sell like that. So I don't want any, like, we almost put all of that in a box versus I can sell lovingly. I can help people get what they want and I can drive the car that I want. I'm just
Hmm.
using that as an example because
Yeah,
we almost want to just cut that off because it's such an icky feeling and we think, oh, in order to have the car that we want or the trips that we want, and so it's like women aren't owning what they really want because it comes attached to this ickiness
yeah,
versus if more women, like you're helping them, more women can sell from that place of love and service, and we get to have all of the toys and the
yeah.
trips and the lifestyle that we want. I think that there hasn't been that balance in the world for us to see, like, hey, you can do really good things in the world and you can get to enjoy you know a great lifestyle too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say this too, because and I don't want to just call out like the bro sales, because I have seen, like, even there are I kind of like see I kind of joke about like the boss babe movement, of
Yes.
like
Yeah.
there's that too
Yes.
of kind of that culture as
Like
well. And
hustle
I'm
culture in a way, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and so it's kind of that real hard,
Yes.
and I struggled with that in my corporate days because that was not in alignment with who
Mhm.
I was or who
Yep.
I am.
Yep.
And even when I left my corporate job as a global sales director, I was over an organization of have managers under me and then a whole organization. And I did not. I think a lot of people see someone, as a sales director, and you have to be very hard and tough and boss babe, and that is so out of alignment with who I am. I want to be approachable. I want to be kind. And you can be that person and be gentle
Yes.
and still be very successful
Yes.
and still get the job done,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. I want to go back because we kind of talked about it, and I want to do more of talk about the redefining wealth because I think also we have been so conditioned, at least in the Western society, of wealth equals one success slash, yeah, success. And how many of us that have gone through that whole conveyor belt and are like, it doesn't equal happiness, it doesn't equal emotional well-being, and really starting to define for yourself, like, what does wealth mean to you? It might mean money and also like emotional well-being, feeling good about what you're doing on a daily basis. Like, can you put your head on the pillow at night and be like, yeah, I'm
Yes.
proud of what I did today? Like, I really supported a lot of people. And so I think, really getting clear on what, yes, wealth, it can be money. And it also is, this was me and lots of people that I've coached and helped, is like, you might be wealthy in Americans' terms, but you're emotionally bankrupt. And so, really taking care of yourself and, you know, yes, you have a business, but that's not the only thing that, you do. And really making sure that you are have, really, I don't like the word good or bad, but like emotional, like what is your emotional well-being? How are you defining as you're growing your business? Because I think too, here we go back with that same culture, right? And it is women too, of just getting to that place, and then you will feel successful, or then you will feel fulfilled or happy or joyful, and recognizing that that is like it's a journey, and part of it is all of it along the way is what is fun and joyful. It's not this thing that we have to withhold until we get to some number or,
Mhm.
you know, goal amount.
Or destination
Yes,
for yeah,
destination. Yep.
yeah. And so, yeah, I love the way that you put that. Um, I think it's interesting. I was just having this conversation with a good friend last night about just different seasons of our life.
Mhm.
And I was telling her that I finally feel that I can see how all of these seasons of my life have been very purposeful in building up on each other, that I needed them to learn the skills needed to get to where I am now. There was a purpose for each of them, and I'm very thankful for them. But I finally feel like I'm sitting, when you like sit in that really comfy chair and you're just like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
I finally feel that I am sitting in that God-given purpose
Mm,
for my life.
mm,
And that is priceless.
mm. It is.
There is no amount of paycheck income that could ever replace that. And wealth is that has been like probably one of the biggest lessons I have learned this year, because wealth is so much different than what the number in my bank account says. So I'll give you like a specific example in my own life. Now, because I am able to work from anywhere, all of my immediate family lives right around in a right around the neighborhood circle in Arkansas. And I've missed out on family dinners for years now because I'm the one that has the corporate job 2 states away. And so I am in the process of moving close to my family, and I'm going to be a 5-minute walk from my sweet little niece and nephew, my mom and dad, my brother and sister in law. And I could not be more excited. And to me, having family dinners on Friday night is wealthy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
life is short.
Yeah.
And
It's all
so I just look at just all of the gifts of the past year, and um I don't know, I just get chills just thinking about like how much wealthier my life is now. And somehow I have made significantly less this year, but the Lord has still provided for me,
yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
And my business has grown, and yeah, it's very interesting how like all of that happens. And I think when you know that you are have felt, have been called, and you are fulfilling like your God-given purpose, that, it works out,
Yeah. It's
So
it's trusting in that, and it's also
yeah.
like doing what you're meant to do. Like it can't not happen because that is what you're meant to
Yeah.
do. So you're going to be provided the resources. And we've been so conditioned with resources equal money, but
Yeah.
that isn't. It could be people, it could be community, it could be other connections. It could just be so many different things
Yes.
that we're
Yes.
provided with, that our brain wants to hold on to the money aspect. When you said about, feeling wealthy and being able to enjoy your family, so much we have been taught that like it's the end goal, then that's when we get to enjoy ourselves. And I think we withhold so much pleasure from our lives because we're so focused on getting to the end goal versus like the end goal is every single day all the way till we take our last breath, right? Like we've been so conditioned to get to this place and then we get to enjoy ourselves. Then we get to feel good about ourselves versus how are we feeling in every single moment of every single day? And like you said, like wealthy isn't just money, it's so much of like how you feel internally about yourself, about your life, about what you're doing. Like there's so much more than just money equals wealth.
And I want to have contentment, to your point. I want to have contentment in today
Yeah.
because I may just have today,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I love it. Is there anything else that you wanna add that maybe I haven't thought about to ask you or you wanna comment on?
um, I think we covered a lot. I
Okay.
loved this conversation because it's like so many important things that are challenging what our culture
Yeah,
says about just sales and women entrepreneurs. And so yeah, I love this conversation, so thank you for engaging
yeah.
in this dialogue with me. So
Of course, one thing that I just thought about is, like, actually the counterculture is what is going to get you to stand out. Not that we need to stand out, but, like, we've been just inundated with the pressure, right? But when someone
mhm.
else is willing to stand up and say, "You know what? Time out. I'm not doing that anymore. This
Mhm.
is how I'm gonna run my business." Here we go back to people pay attention to that, and also like you're giving permission for other people to do that as well. And I think sometimes, I mean, I always joke around. I'm like, well, somebody's got to do it. Might as well be me. It's just like, like we need more women that are like, you know what, we're not doing it this way anymore. And building from community, building from collaboration, building from, supporting each other versus like I was talking about earlier, the separation because we aren't, right? We are all
Yes.
connected. And
Yeah.
when, I think women do this so naturally and beautifully because that is just a part of our nature of collaboration. How can I support you? What can I do for you? And stop believing the lies that we've been taught. Well, when we do that, then we're missing out or we're, hurting our business or something. Like it actually adds to, right? And so, yeah, I love it.
Yes. Amen. I love that. And that is so important. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned too as an entrepreneur that um everyone is so willing to
Yes.
help and to just work together. I love that about just the entrepreneurship community.
Yeah.
And that's been one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
So,
They do. I mean, like that's the thing is like people want you to make it succeed, however word you want to use, right?
yeah.
So ask for what you want and support, So I love it. Thank you,
Yes.
Andy, for coming on,
Yes.
for sharing your time with us. Where can people find out about you, your candles, coaching, all of the things?
Yes, absolutely. I have a website,
Okay.
andeehart.com, and you spell my name Andee, a little bit different. And I also have a free Facebook group. It's She Sells Differently on Facebook. And then my candle company is heartdesignco.com.
Okay. And so can we go and buy directly on your website for your candles? You can. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for having me.